So Christine, let's start with a short history of rocks. And so this notion really came from, and I can't say it was actually Stephen Covey that invented rocks. I don't think so. I think this story's been around for a long time. And it's really about, there's big rocks. These are things are the most important things. And there's the pebbles are the things that happen around the base, then sand are less important. But this notion is really that if you put the big rocks in the jar first, if the jar represents all of your time, and I've seen this like talked about like, oh, is this your life? Where do you put the big rocks in, or the most important things? It still looks like a full life, even if it's just full of big rocks, but then you can fill in other things. From the standpoint of a company operating system, the real most important thing is getting to the place where you've got your highest priorities and you can be really clear about those, but they have to go into your jar of time first. You have to give them primacy in there, because then you're going to fit everything else around them. And we'll talk about why it's so much easier to fit the pebbles in around the rocks, just kind of like even in real life where you can filter them down in. The pebbles are things you're doing on a regular basis. So you're probably better, a little more facile at moving those things around, especially the sand, all those little things that come up. You're going to be better at deflecting those and putting them in the right places. But the rocks, that's the new stuff. That's the frontal lobe design stuff. You got to put it in first, otherwise it's never going to get done. So it's about accomplishing your goals. Let's move on.
All right. And I saw you put your apologies to the geologists out there.
Yeah, I just, the short history of rocks, I don't know. I thought it was funny whenever I put it in there. Maybe it's not. So if we think about this idea, part of what we're trying to do with company operating systems in general, and certainly with EOS, we talk about, we're trying to develop this discipline around being able to predict, to be able to make plans for the future. As humans, we are sucky at planning. We've got this whole frontal lobe thing. We're one of the few species that has this frontal lobe, and it is for planning, and it is for just, being creative, and it is for worrying. It takes up, that's where all the energy gets consumed in your brain. If you can move things out of the frontal lobe and into the middle part of your brain, you're so much more efficient with that stuff. Christine, I know you spend a lot of time in your frontal lobe, but it's exhausting, right? You got to get as many things back into that discipline part, that regular recurring things. So we give you frameworks for how to think about the very hard work of predicting. We're still agrarian people. We still are mostly able to predict what I have to do this season to survive next season, right? That's still where we're at as a species. So EOS does a great job of framing it up, but so a lot of other operating systems do as well. If we think about we're on this road, the road's not going to be straight, but let's think about it just straight, just because it's easier that way. Way out there, beyond the horizons, are just cause. This is our this notion, this thing we're never going to achieve. It's where we're headed, but we can't see it. And then when we talk about that 10-year goal, that 10-year target, that's the horizon. That's as far out as we can possibly imagine right now. And we can make it really definitive. Then we even by closer is 3 years. It's like a third of the way towards that definitive SMART goal that we put at 10 years. We have a 3-year thing, but it's still kind of far out there. I still can't be too specific. Pull that in 1/3 again, 1 year. 1 year, I can start to kind of really wrap my head around this. And with the discipline and regularity of trying to get better and better at predicting, I can get better and better at figuring out what can I get accomplished this year. And the real question is, what do I have to accomplish this year to be on track to get to my 3-year goals, to be on track to get to my 10-year thing, to make sure I'm working towards my just cause, right? So I'll take this giant unperceivable thing way out in the future, trying to keep ratcheting it closer to the point where I want to get to the most important thing, which is 1 quarter from now, which is about as far as I can really, because that's my following distance on this road, Christine. I don't want to be any closer than that, because I'm going to run into somebody, but I can look that far out and be pretty certain of where I'm going to go and how I'm going to get there. And that's kind of how we want to think about it. These rocks are about our quarterly goals, quarterly priorities that are going to step us towards this ultimate hard to predict thing way out in the future. So it's that developing that discipline of what I need to accomplish now to get to this other thing. That's going to help. That's not just a business. That's our whole lives, is being able to get to be better at predicting. So that's what we're trying to do here. Rocks are the big important things, and it's part of like being able to go after these bigger goals and developing a discipline about getting there.
Yeah, and I love the context of having the quarterly plan, the rocks, in relation to all of that other vision content that's already on your VTO, and being able to look at it and relate back and say, yes, this is fulfilling our focus, our cause,
Yeah.
call it.
Well, and I love that view that back in pre-license, where we have all those items lined up in the VTX, where it's like that is the cascade of planning that you have to go for. To rationalize how I'm going to get to this almost imperceivable, horizon, I have to be able to line these things up, because that's how I'm going to say no to things I shouldn't be doing. Right, and that's really it. Okay, so moving on from that. So why create rocks? I've already said rocks help you rally around your priorities. So giving your whole organization focus. If I can name something, it has to be done this quarter, and then I make it smart, which we'll get to. I can focus everyone's attention by saying, this is the most important thing this quarter, or these are the 3 to 5 things, more, less is more, to get everybody focused on that thing. Because when we all know what that is, we can all start making these tiny decisions on a regular basis to support that focus. Number 2, getting good at planning. I said it's really hard to plan. Planning is hard, but these are about figuring out what's my next step towards getting to this longer term goal. And that is a discipline that we have to create within ourselves, of being able to plan better and better, be more and more focused on that. And like I said, it's really about the discipline. So to bringing those long-term 10-year target, a 10-year goal, all the way down to what do I have to get accomplished this week? I mean, imagine the power of that, being able to say, hey, someday I'm going to go to the Olympics, but today I just have to be able to run this many miles. This week, I have to do this many workouts to be able to be on track to getting to the Olympics. But that's what it takes. And you can do amazing things. Maybe you're not going to go to the Olympics. Christine, I'm not going to the Olympics.
I don't know. You could probably really work hard at skeet shooting or something and still make it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, there's a guy that was doing steeplechase or something like that, riding horses. He's 60 years old. So, but chances are I'm not going to the Olympics. But I still have great things I want to accomplish, and I know if I don't make progress on every day, every week by week, I'm not going to get there. So developing that discipline, and as our founder likes to say, disciplines are more powerful than goals. Developing a discipline to accomplish your goals are going to be valuable even if the goals change. Going back to that road model, Christine, so many of my clients, I called them up when we first started shutting down here in the States around COVID. I called them up and said, don't pretend this is temporary. This is the new context. Succeed in this context. If you're thinking about that road model, now you're driving in fog. You can't see that far. So just start making shorter term decisions. Your following distance is shorter. So we went to, half day monthly meetings and monthly rocks as opposed to quarterlies, because we don't know what's going to be that far out. So just plan for as far away as you can really predictably see, and start accomplishing those things. You'll still make progress.
All right.
I get so excited about this. All right, so Christine, you've done this a million times. You know this as best as I do. So we set rocks every quarter. We set rocks at annual meetings, but it's really part of your first quarterly. So that annual meeting 2-day sequence is really an annual planning day, and then another quarterly.
Right.
But like I said, sometimes we pull back and we make them about monthly, but it's about coming up that defined period of time beyond the 1 to 2 week to-do window where I got to coordinate some things. And so I'm setting them on a regular basis. And it's, Christine, I gotta say the most powerful thing about rocks for me is when Chris or Mark say to me something really crazy, and I said, great idea, add to the long-term issues list, we'll look at it at the quarterly. Right, so like all those crazy ideas that come up during the quarter that aren't about making this quarter successful, you put them on that long-term list, and they become the seeds for your rocks.
Yeah. So even today, I was talking to Steven, and I was like, there's this idea, this campaign we can send out. We're going to put that on the long-term issues list because it's a big idea. We don't have time to go out and accomplish it right now, but it's a potential rock for a future quarter. So keep adding them there even right now.
It's so powerful to have those things there. Take them out of your head so they're not chewing up brain space. Because once again, those new things, they go into the frontal lobe and chew up all kinds of energy. You need that creativity to accomplish the quarter. Get them out of your head, put them in the long-term issues list, and free it up for solving today's problems. And then you want to have a regular discipline, regardless of whether you're on EOS or some other system. We know there's lots of other systems now using 90. You want to go back and look at all of those documents on a regular basis, recenter yourselves in those, especially when you're preparing for a quarterly, for an annual, and pull out of them questions or ideas that go into these things. So we walk everybody through. If you're on EOS, we walk you through, every quarter, or at least every year, your core values. Are these still your core values? Are we hiring and firing, recognizing and rewarding against these core values? And every time I ask the question, people come up, oh, you know what? We haven't done this. Here's an idea. I was just talking to someone this morning at an event all about the changing nature of hiring in this environment. There's going to be new things we're going to do about making sure our core values live in our hiring processes now that it's so hard to get people. So review all those documents, accountability chart, anything else you've got. Those are, thinking about those again are going to shake loose some possible rocks, and certainly the things you're trying to get accomplished quarter over quarter. I mean, that's really where, especially my younger teams, Christine, I take them through, like, let's not look at the VTO this quarter. Let's just focus on the 1-year plan and make sure. I'm not feeling great about this, guys. Let's make sure we're making progress on our 1-year plan by really making sure all of our rocks are about getting to our numbers and getting to our goals for the year.
Nice. And that's exactly what this last one is. So in that 1 year, it's like you're setting up what your revenue is, what your profit is, the key measurables. So you should have all of those decided and be working towards those.